Hi guys, and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I'm finally getting around to reviewing the STA-2 / STA-2 Black Edition. I'll be using the Black Edition because that's the one that I've got. And just before I start off with that, a couple of announcements. One, I don't know if you people have that sounds so snobbish, doesn't it? Yes, you people. Sorry, I don't know if you guys I've seen the news. Wargaming tweeted earlier that America have won the first weekend. So, congratulations to everybody that chose America. Commiserations to everybody that chose UK. So, unfortunately, UK did lose. It was quite close, though, I think, from the scores. So, I think it was something like 91,000 to America and about 88 to UK, something like that. So, yeah, it was very close. The other thing is that I was invited and have accepted with great enthusiasm and honour. When I can get my words out, see, I'm very excited. I have been accepted into the EU Community Contributors Programme by Wargaming, so really excited about that. Thank you to the Beard guys as well for their help, and yeah, really looking forward to doing some good stuff coming up with that. So yeah, fantastic news. Anyway, yeah, very excited, like I say. I'm like a giddy little schoolgirl. Anyway, back to the review. Well, it's Tier 8 Japanese Premium Medium Tank. The differences, I'll start off with that first. Well, on the STA-2 Black Edition, you get 50% silver bonus, exactly the same as you do on the STA-2. But on here you get the 75% XP bonus. The standard STA gets 15% XP bonus. And there is a slight difference in concealment, which we'll cover. I'll cover that when I get to the modules. Anyway, let's start by having a look at the gun. Oh, and this gets, they both get preferential matchmaking, so they don't see higher than Tier 9. It's got a 90mm rifle gun, and until the last update it had about 183 pen, but it got buffed up to 212 with the last update, which was fantastic news. It's got a very good rate of fire at 8.44 rounds a minute, which is really good. Penetration, like I say, 212, 240 standard sort of 90mm damage, 275 on your premium rounds, which are heat, and 45 and 320 for your HE. You got a 2.1 second aiming time, which isn't too bad at all, and 0.37 accuracy, which again isn't too bad. It's very workable. Decent traverse at 44 degrees a second on the hull, and a decent turret traverse as well at 44 degrees a second. View range at 380 is not bad, quite average again for the tier. Could do with being a little bit better, but then again, that's just because I'd like to outspot more enemies in this because it doesn't have particularly good armour. And you've got a 720 metre signal range. Now, quick look at the supplies. 380 for the armour piercing rounds, 4,400 for the high explosive, and 240. Sorry, for your high explosive anti-tank, and 240 for your high explosive. That would have been very, very expensive, high explosive. Equipment-wise, well, I've gone for the gun rammer to improve that already great rate of fire. I've gone for vents, and I've gone for vertical stabilizer. However, I have been thinking very recently, in fact since I've been playing it today to get the footage for this, about taking the vents off and putting coated optics on. It's very much a support medium. It's quite mobile, it can get around the battlefield fairly easily, it's got very good gun depression, and you can basically go to where you need it, but you don't have particularly good armour. So that's why I've been thinking about taking the vents off and putting coated optics on, because it's got good, decent acceleration, good traverses, it's got decent aiming time, good rate of fire, and that's all the sort of stuff that the vents improve just a little bit. But I think I could do with a bit more view range. Skills wise, well, yeah, I've not actually got any particularly very skilled crews for the Japanese. I went through the Japanese line quite early and found it quite hard, because I went through it quite early, because they are very much those sort of support tanks. So I kind of need to give them a bit of love, and show a bit of love towards my crews and get them done up a bit. But I've got Sixth Sense, Camouflage, definitely Situational Awareness I think is quite good on this. And that's the thing, you see, it's got quite good traverses and everything else, so a lot of the things that you'd be putting on it would really be to just improve whatever's there already. So, I mean, they're the main three I would have said for this: situational awareness, sixth sense, and camouflage. And then really it's just a case of what you'd like to put on it. You know, clutch braking will just improve the already good traverse, etc, etc. But I'd say they're your three main skills, and then maybe snapshot, possibly muffled shot, maybe. Anything to try and make yourself that little bit sneakier. I'd say you definitely want repairs on it as well, but I'd probably go for that for maybe a fourth skill, possibly. I want to say firefighting for some reason. Whether I don't know, I feel like I get set on fire a lot in this. Whether I do or not, I'm not entirely sure, but I just feel like I do. Anyway, let's just start having a look at the modules. Well, while I'm here, we'll look at concealment as well, and sort of I'll mention the difference there between this and the standard STA-2. You get 2.7 stationary with this and 0.21 on the move, which is pretty average for the tier. I checked through all the other sort of tier 8 mediums, and that seems to be a pretty average concealment rating for both of those, but it's 3 less than that on both for the standard STA-2. So you're looking at 0.24 for stationary and 0.18 while moving. So that's, again, it's about average for the tier, but it's just touching on the low side of it, if you see what I mean. So, you know, it is a bit taller than, I mean, let's just have a look. There's the STA-1 when it comes up, there you go, and there's the STA-2. So it is shorter and taller than the standard, than the Tech Tree STA-1, and the turret is a bit taller as well. But it doesn't really suffer too much on the concealment for that one, really, so, you know, it's not too savage. Anyway, back to the modules. Well, you've got a 500 horsepower engine, which gives you a power to weight ratio of 14.74. It's not the best. It does feel a bit sluggish just to get going at first, and sometimes up hills, you know, you're not going to get up a hill particularly quickly. There are faster ones out there, but you've got an alright top speed of 45 kilometers an hour. In fact, no, I say an alright speed. It's, again, fairly low. One of the main complaints about the Centurions is that they're limited to 40 kilometers an hour, so this is only 5 more, so it is a bit slow on the top speed, but once you get up there, you can seem to be able to maintain it fairly well. You know, it's still a fairly mobile little medium tank, and I'm sort of growing to like it. It's not an easy tank to do well in because of this sort of lack of armour, and because it's not as mobile as some of the others. But it can be quite rewarding. Anyway, you've got a reverse speed of 20 kilometers an hour and a 15% chance of fire. And it's a fairly large engine block. Basically, this well, I'd say the last third of the tank is engine. So with the gun, you've not got a very good elevation. That is one of the things with this, at only 13 degrees. So if anything gets above you, you can be in trouble with that. But you've got good gun depression at -10, and the gun mantle, it's not very well armoured, but it's quite rounded and can be quite trolly and bounce the odd shot. And in fact, I think I might have a match where I do that, possibly. I'm not entirely sure now. Anyway, tracks, well, your terrain resistances are actually pretty good. So, yeah, I am right, you do maintain it quite well. So, even though your power to weight ratio is quite low because you've got good terrain resistances, it sort of translates to a bit of a boost in acceleration. If you had that engine on something with bad terrain resistances, you really would be sluggish. But yeah, I was a bit confused when I saw the power to weight ratio because it feels faster than that. But there you go, that's why, terrain resistances. So yeah, once you've got up to speed, you can maintain it fairly well. But again, hills, you will slow down a fair amount on them. But yeah, you've got 0.8, 0.9 and 1.8 for the terrain resistances, so they are pretty damn good. Turret on top, where I would expect, and radio is just, well, where the turret joins the hull in the right hand side of the tank, more or less in the centre. Ammunition blocks, these are the ones that people want. We've got one on the left hand side of the tank, directly below the turret, behind the tracks, and there are gaps in the track, so you can shoot through there if you're close enough or you've got good enough accuracy. But then again, most of the stuff that comes up against this isn't going to struggle to just put it straight through the tracks and straight through the side of the armour, because it's not particularly good. Like I said before, you also have a smaller ammunition block which more or less takes up that overhang on the back of the turret, not quite to the back of it, but between the hatches, and I'd say about 2/3 of the way back is ammo block, but the one in the hull is the bigger one. But then again, a lot of the time you'll only see a turret on one of these things because they'll be hiding somewhere hull down, which is, you know, how you really want to try and play this, hide as much as possible. Crew members, you've got 4 in here. You've got the driver down in the hull and 3 up in the turret, commander under the commander's cupola, and then you've got the loader and the gunner up there as well. Now, armour wise, well, let's have a look at the basic figures. You've got 45 on the front of the hull and 70 on the front of the turret. You've got 35 on the side of the hull, which is, as you'll agree, quite thin, and 60 on the side of the turret, and then 25 on the rear of the hull and 35 on the rear of the turret. So that's what I mean. The armour is not particularly good. The turret is a bit better, but as you can see, the thickest part on the gun mantle is in sort of an upside down T shape, as you can see there. And like I say, you can bounce the odd shot off there if you're lucky, especially when using your gun depression, but you definitely do not want to rely on it. But it can be quite trolly, that gun mantle. 1 to 20mm is your tracks, the top of the turret, the top of the hatches, and the engine deck and the lower rear glacis. And then you've got 21 to 30, which are the upper sides of the tank, but not the rear back. Do they fall under that category? No, they don't. So you've got those upper sides there where you've got the angle, and I don't remember that chunk being there, but it's probably got a fender there or something. You've got the upper rear glacis that falls into that category as well, and then the very top part of the front of the tank, so where the upper glacis just gently slopes up into the sort of front deck. It's very thin, but it's very, very well angled. But again, even if that's 30mm, a 90mm could overmatch that part. But a 90mm is not going to have much trouble putting it through the front of this at only 45mm, even though it is very well angled. And, I mean, on the flat, most things you're going to come up against, if not everything, are just going to pen the front of your tank very, very easily. But if you're using that gun depression, it increases that angle and makes it, well, it almost makes it an auto bounce zone. But then you've got to worry about your turret because your turret's not the thickest either. But anyway, the lower sides fall into the 31 to 50 category, as do the sort of that rear portion there where it's flat and you've not got those slopes. You've got the rear sides of the turret, the rear of the turret itself, and yeah, the upper sides of the turret and the commander's hatch, and then that slope from the gun mantle to the top of the turret falls into that category as well. 51 to 70, well, that's the lower portion of your turret, so it's the rounded bit that goes towards, well, it goes from the overhang on the back right round to the gun mantle and patches of the gun mantle as well. And then I'm assuming that's the gunner's viewport possibly falls in there as well. And then 121 to 160 is those strips across the gun mantle. And like I say, using the gun depression on this, you can pop up and fire and pop back down. It's fairly good at peekaboo, but it definitely wants to be played in the support role. Anyway, let's get into the replays and see how it actually handles. Right, so here we are for the first of the replays. It's a tier 8 match, standard battle on Swamp, and something I did forget in the garage is the price. The standard STA-2 is available in the tech tree, and it's 7,400 gold, which is pretty cheap for a tier 8 actually, and I think it's the second cheapest tier 8 in the tech trees. The cheapest, I think, is the Super Pershing, possibly at 7,200. So yeah, not a bad price. Earns a fair amount of can earn a fair amount of credits as well, with 50% bonus, like I said before. But it is very much a support tank, but with those good terrain resistances. As you can see here, I'm moving across the you know, the soft terrain, or hard going, whichever you want to call it. But you know, it's actually moving quite well. In fact, I'm saying I'm moving across here. This is not me. This is my lovely wife in the STA-2. She does like this tank, and I'd had a couple of games in it and not done particularly well. Done alright, but not great. So she jumped in it to show me how it's done. And yeah, like I say, it is very much a support medium. You can get around the battlefield, and this is just a bit of a recap for those that have skipped the garage part. Good gun depression, you want to use that because not only does it sort of basically kinds of forces them to shoot at your sort of trolley gun mantle, It also accentuates the sloping on the front of the hull as well. And if you're using, you know, sort of all 10 degrees, that can kind of turn into an auto bounce zone. You do have a fairly large commander's hatch, however, and the turret itself is not particularly strong at the front. In fact, the strongest armour is a thin strip right across the middle of the gun mantle, and then a small strip just above the gun. It goes from the gun to the top of the gun mantle, and you don't want to rely on it on that sort of trolley gun mantle, but it can save you in a pinch. And like I say, I think the second replay, which is actually one of my matches, I think that happens a couple of times in that one. Now she's come up to this position because, well, nobody else really has. There's a tank destroyer just over on the right, and this is one of the ways. Well, this is a good way of sort of playing this tank on especially on a map like this, is get to a position where you might be able to spot something, put shots out. But you want to play it cautiously, or more cautiously, for the first half of the match until you find out where the enemy tanks are and where you might be needed. And you can get, like I say, you can get there fairly quickly. There's a T-37 making a run down that eastern side of the map. And now they're all starting to pop up. But it does seem fairly good, like I say, at doing sort of peek-a-boom shots. And the rate of fire is really quite good on this 90mm. Although, that just hit that SU-101 a bit dodgy. And so did that one. And that's with the improved 212mm of pen. When this had 183, I think it was, 180, 183, it was, I don't know, it was just kind of frustrating. Not so much in Tier 8 matches, it could be occasionally, especially, you know, against things like IS-3s, you know, it's there. But yeah, it could have been quite frustrating against them. And yeah, in Tier 9 matches, you had to sort of aim for weak spots a bit more, or flank if you could. But the 212 pen, it has helped. T-69 over there, and starts putting in some supporting fire. Well, that one got eaten by the tracks, and if he's reloaded, that friendly could be in trouble. But now she's been spotted, so she's going to pull back. TVP, although he's just taken a hit to the engine. It looks as though she was spotted, but nobody was actually looking at her. And yeah, it's not looking too good. There's a 3-tank lead at the minute, although we've just pulled it back by 1. But it's looking quite iffy down this eastern side. There's the TVP there, the Tier 8 Czech medium. Again, not particularly thick armour, so it shouldn't be too much of a... Well, I would have said it's not going to be a problem to pen him. Unless the tracks eat it. Yeah, there you go. Oh, there's an IS-6, and was that an ONI? Now, if that ONI, I think it was an ONI, whatever it is, it's a big Japanese heavy, which could potentially have a dirty, great howitzer. And that dirty, great howitzer comes with around, is it 75 pen? 75 pen on its HE rounds, and this tank has 45mm of armour on the front, so that would spell, well, disaster. Oh, there's a T-29. Maybe it wasn't a Japanese super heavy, although I could have sworn it was. And here comes the T-20. Oh, just a bit too much lead, or did he turn just at the last second? And he's done. He was making a run down for that tank destroyer. Now the IS-6 has turned up. Oh, there is an ONI there as well. Luckily, straight through. Can't quite tell what gun it had from here. Although it kind of looks like it could be the Not the howitzer, but the proper tank gun. I can't remember what size it is on there. Is it 105mm, something like that? Now, the IS-6 could be an issue. They do have very trolly armour. The Oni, well, if we can get it on its own, that's not going to be a problem to outmaneuver it. But there's the IS-6, although that was a nice solid hit to the side. And at the moment, I think they seem to be intent on going for Arty. And, yeah, not for trying to kill us. Although the IS-6 could be possibly, and yeah, took it from the IS-6. And it damaged her turret. Got that back up and working, and going back at the TVP, although unfortunately that just missed. And where's the Oni going? That one hit, but I don't know if it's going to be in time to save Arty. Come on, just reload. Not quite. Unfortunately, Arty did bite the big one, and oh, the Oni drowned himself. I don't know if that was. I don't think that was intentional. And yeah, she managed to take out the TVP. That was really nice work defending the base. Though it was just a shame that Arty did bite it and couldn't be saved. And at this point, actually, like I say, neither of us, me nor my wife, and I don't know if you missed that at the beginning, but this is her driving this tank, realised that that Oni had actually drowned himself, and was almost sort of sure it was there until we realised that, well, it wasn't. She was sort of focusing on taking down sort of the IS-6, taking down the TVP, and decided basically just to be a bit cautious, then realised that it actually died and decided to move on and move out. And I know we could have put the team list up, but sometimes it just doesn't occur to you. You know, when you're sort of in that situation where you've just had a bit of a fight on your hands. Although she did very well not to take much return fire apart from the IS-6. There's Arty. And he's done, and there's only one heavy left, and it's a Fatherland, and there he is. I don't know if he's tracked or stuck, but he's not moving. Yeah, he's got to be tracked or stuck or something, otherwise he'd definitely be moving. And that's him done. Somebody reloaded just before, in fact, I think it was a Fatherland. Yep, fairly decent reload on those. But that was quite a nice match. Started off very cautiously, good defence of the base, and came out of that with a decent score. 103,000 silver, 3,427 XP, and 3,368 damage done with 3 kills. But it wasn't quite enough to get to the top of the table, but still, that was a damn good game with a very good result. Like I say, it's not an easy tank to do well in. It's not the hardest. You know, there are tanks out there that are far harder to do well in than this, but it's definitely not an easy one. It's not particularly forgiving like some tanks. You know, if you make a bit of a mistake, you know, your armour could possibly bounce it, or you know, etc. With that one, not so much. You make a mistake, you're more than likely going to get penned and suffer for it, unfortunately. Anyway, here's the second match for you, and this is myself driving this time. It's on steps, a very tier 8 match. In fact, I think it is only tier 8s possibly, and it's another standard battle. And like I said before in the garage, this does get preferential matchmaking, as with the standard STA-2, so you won't see higher than tier 9 unless you platoon up. However, with the pen increase, I think it now gets the same pen as the Tech Tree STA-1, which does not get preferential matchmaking. So if you do platoon up with other people, I think, well, like I say, the normal one doesn't get it, so you could possibly take this into tier 10 games. It's something I might have to look at, although I think 1 or 2 hits and you are going to be in some serious trouble, if not back at the garage. So I sometimes don't play it quite as cautiously at the beginning. That is one of my problems sometimes. I do get a little bit too aggressive, a bit too early on in some of these support tanks occasionally, although I think I behaved myself quite well in this match, if I remember rightly. Although I have pushed fairly far forward, and I was just taking up a bit of a position just to try and spot stuff and then pull back. I was very aware that there's no arty in this match, so, you know, I was fairly confident in pulling a bit of a move like that, sitting up there and just waiting, see what came along and spotted me. I'm fairly confident in the fact that I could have reversed back before taking any damage. Of course, I've done things like that before and been completely wrong, and yeah, the results were not quite so good. Now, the enemy team have actually made a push down that central road, that sunken road, which I've not seen for a while on this map. Actually, I think I saw that quite a bit when it first sort of, you know, when this first when I can get my words out, when this map first came on. I do remember people making a push down that road, but I've not seen it for a while. And it's left us a little bit thin on this side. However, the enemy don't seem to be making too much of a push down here, and I'm going to try and work this fatherland over as much as possible and hopefully get a bit of support from these two heavies that are with me. And I'm just using my gun depression just to pop over, although I've taken a good couple of hits, and it's taken over half my health away, so I've not really got much to play with. That's the fatherland done. And now we've got, what is there, a Tiger 2? And another fatherland. Put a cheeky shot out and hit his tracks. I don't know if it's tracked him or just damaged them a bit. In fact, no, it didn't track him, or if it did, he used a repair kit. Because I got no tracking damage, although, considering he was on full health, he's now looking rather worse for wear. And I did get a parting shot into his lower plate, so quite happy with that cheeky little shot there. But, yeah, I've taken more damage, and now I am in a very sorry state myself, health-wise, with only 255 left. In fact, there's quite a few things in this match that could definitely one-shot me, and have the potential to fairly easily one-shot me, so I'm going to have to be very, very careful. Now, where's that Tiger 2? Just pop up, use that gun depression again, and just pull back. You don't have to wait too long for it to aim. And, like I say, it does seem fairly good at the peek-a-boom. That Tiger 2 got ammo right. Now we've got a fatherland and a T-28 prototype, and like I said, this is a bit taller than the normal STA-1. The normal STA-1 is a very low profile machine, and that can really hide itself in some very shallow sort of dips and bumps in the ground that this would sort of poke out of a bit more. But I'm going to be just trying to peek over. Nope, can't quite see him. I don't want to give all of them shots at me. There's quite a few tanks over there. There's a Borsig, there's a Tiger, and he's got the stock turret, and there's a lucky bounce off my gun mantle. I think, like I said, you've got 70mm on the front of this turret. Oh, that was very close. That's left me on 23 health, but with him having the stock turret, I can, excuse me, I just had to pause it there for a minute to clear my throat. I can basically put it straight through the front of his turret, but he's hiding. And I was expecting myself to go, well, to go boom any second now. We have got a bit of a lead. Things know I'm here, as you can see by the tracers flying over. So I've got to be very, very careful. Something could just fart in my direction and I'm going to be going back to the garage. So I think it's time to relocate, because anything over there that sort of knew where I was will be, well, they'll be trained on that spot that I kept popping up and down. So I'm going to pull back over, try and put a bit of distance between myself and those guys. Couldn't quite get a shot at the T-28 prototype. And I'm fairly safe here from anything, but you can see I keep checking. See if I can get that IS-3. Ooh, just clipped him, but it was enough to take him down. but I've got to be very, very careful. Although, we're now down to these last 2 tank destroyers, so... well, bugger it, let's go for it, shall we? That T-28 prototype, if I can get his side or rear, he's a one-shot for me, and the Borsig just took a hit, so he could be a one-shot as well. I've got a good rate of fire if I can just avoid their shots. I've got a fairly decent chance here. Oh, the Borsig's looking this way, but he's missed. Can I get him? Yes, I can, and it was a low roll, obviously. Of course it was. And... beautiful. My tank has no armour, but it still has more than a Borsig, and I am very, very glad of that. So, not a bad match at all. Quite a fun one, possibly the best, or one of the most entertaining games I've ever had in the STA-2. But I came out of that with 2,747 damage done, 166,000 silver, but I did get an extra 50% from the op, and 3,700 odd XP as well. But that is obviously with the 75% XP boost, as you can see from the experience stats there down at the bottom of the screen. But there you go, STA-2. Not a bad tank, quite a decent supporting medium, but a fairly difficult one to use and to get used to. And I hope you've enjoyed that, and I hope you found it useful. So I'll be back tomorrow with another video, but until then, take care out there, and I will catch you next time. See you later.